A white woman gave birth to quadruplets, 2 black baby girls and 2 white baby girls. Overwhelmed by the unexpected, her husband walked out, leaving her to raise them alone. Years later, in an unexpected reunion, they uncover a shocking truth that changes everything. From where in the world are you listening to this story today? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Now, let's dive into the story from African Legacy Tales. Joyce Gordon stood frozen in the delivery room, her eyes fixed on the 4 tiny faces before her. The medical staff's whispers grew louder, and her husband David's grip on her hand loosened until it disappeared completely. Through her exhausted haze, she could see what everyone else saw. 2 of her newborn daughters had café au lait skin and dark curls, while the other 2 had skin as fair as her own. "This is impossible," David's voice cracked, his face ashen. "How could you do this to me?" "David, please," Joyce pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "I've never been with anyone else, you have to believe me." The delivery room fell silent, except for the gentle coos of 4 healthy baby girls, unaware of the storm brewing around them. Look, what shocking family secret will unravel this mystery years later? Dr. Peterson, who had been Joyce's physician throughout her high-risk pregnancy, stepped forward with authority. "Mr. Gordon, I need you to listen carefully," she began, her voice steady and professional. "What we're seeing here is a rare but documented phenomenon. These girls are quadruplets, and their different appearances don't automatically imply what you're thinking." But David had already backed away toward the door, his wedding ring making a hollow sound as it hit the linoleum floor. I won't raise another man's children," he choked out before turning and walking away, leaving Joyce alone with her daughters and a room full of stunned medical staff. As Joyce cradled each of her daughters, she whispered promises through her tears. "Cynthia, Anna, Nancy, and Zara, you are all mine, and I will love you equally, always." She traced their tiny features, memorizing every detail of their perfect faces. The girls might look different, but they were all pieces of her heart. That night, as Joyce lay in her hospital bed, surrounded by 4 bassinets, she received a text message that would seal their fate. "I'm filing for divorce, don't try to contact me." Her world had shattered in less than 24 hours, but as she watched her daughters sleeping peacefully, she knew she had no choice but to be strong for them. What Joyce couldn't know then was that David's reaction wasn't just about prejudice or distrust, it was about a family secret buried so deep that its revelation would one day shake the foundations of everything they thought they knew. As she drifted into an exhausted sleep, she couldn't have imagined that the truth about her daughter's appearance lay hidden in the branches of David's family tree, waiting to be discovered. The nurses watched through the window as the new mother slept, their faces etched with concern. One of them held a manila envelope containing the results of routine genetic tests, results that would remain sealed for years to come, holding answers that could have prevented years of pain and misunderstanding. Outside the hospital, David sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. His phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from his mother, each one more urgent than the last. If he had only opened them, he would have seen the old family photographs she was sending, images that held the key to understanding his daughter's unexpected appearance. Instead, he started the engine and drove away into the night, leaving behind not only his family but also the truth about his own heritage. As the first rays of dawn broke through the hospital window, Joyce stirred to the sound of her daughter's synchronized breathing. She didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning of a journey that would test her strength, challenge society's prejudices, and ultimately uncover a family secret that would change everything. The real question wasn't about their different appearances, it was about what lengths a mother would go to protect her children and what secrets the past held that could either tear them apart or bring them together. The hospital corridors buzzed with whispered conversations, and somewhere in the city, David's mother clutched a box of old family photographs, debating whether to reveal a truth that had been buried for generations. The stage was set for a story that would span decades, testing the bonds of family, the power of love, and the weight of secrets kept too long. 5 years had passed since that fateful day in the hospital. Joyce sat on a park bench, watching her 4 daughters playing on the swings. Cynthia and Anna, with their fair skin and honey blonde hair, took turns pushing Nancy and Zara, whose darker complexions and curly black hair caught the sunlight differently. Their laughter was identical, even if their appearances weren't. "Mommy, look how high," called out Cynthia, her feet reaching for the sky. Joyce smiled, but her heart tightened as she noticed the familiar stares from other parents. She'd grown accustomed to the sideways glances, the whispered conversations, and the awkward questions about whether she was babysitting some of the girls. The challenges of raising quadruplets as a single mother were immense, but Joyce had found unexpected allies. Her mother, Elena, had moved in with them shortly after the divorce, and her next-door neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, often helped with childcare. Still, making ends meet required Joyce to work 2 jobs, teaching during the day and doing online freelance work late into the night. That evening, as Joyce tucked the girls into their shared bedroom, Zara tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, why do some people look at us funny?" The innocent question hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Before Joyce could answer, Nancy chimed in. "Tommy at daycare said we can't be sisters because we don't match." Joyce gathered all 4 girls into her arms, their small bodies fitting together like puzzle pieces. "Listen to me, my beautiful flowers," she began, using their special nickname. "You are sisters in every way that matters. You grew together in my heart, and you were born together on the same special day. People might look different on the outside, just like flowers in a garden can be different colors, but that doesn't change what's inside." But the world wasn't as understanding as Joyce tried to be. The first parent-teacher conference at kindergarten brought this reality home sharply. Miss Thompson, the girls' teacher, shifted uncomfortably in her chair as she explained how some parents had expressed concerns about having all 4 girls in the same class. "They worry it might be confusing for the other children," Miss Thompson said delicately. "Perhaps we should consider splitting them up." Joyce felt her face flush with anger. "My daughters stay together," she stated firmly. "They need each other, and I won't let anyone separate them because of how they look." That night, after the girls were asleep, Joyce found herself looking through old photographs. She paused at one taken just hours after the girls were born, before David left. His face was turned away from the camera, but she noticed something she hadn't before. He was looking at his phone at what appeared to be a message or photo. She squinted at the image, wondering what he had seen that day that had made him leave so abruptly. Her thoughts were interrupted by a small voice. "Mommy," it was Anna standing in the doorway in her butterfly pajamas. "I had a bad dream, can I sleep with you?" Soon, all 4 girls had crawled into Joyce's bed, their breathing synchronizing as they drifted off to sleep. As Joyce watched over them, her phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from an ancestry website she'd signed up for months ago, hoping to find answers about her daughter's heritage. The subject line made her heart skip a beat. "DNA match found, Gordon family tree." Joyce's finger hovered over the email, but before she could open it, her screen went black. The battery had died. She looked at her sleeping daughters and decided it could wait until morning. What she didn't know was that across town, David's mother, Margaret Gordon, was looking at the same email notification, her hands trembling as she opened an old family album that held secrets spanning 3 generations. In their dreams, the girls were just sisters, running, playing, and loving each other without question, but reality was more complicated. As they grew, the questions would only become more difficult to answer. Joyce pulled her daughters closer, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also feeling that somehow, somewhere, answers were beginning to surface. The next morning would bring the girls' first day of first grade and with it, new tests of their bond as sisters. In Joyce's bedside drawer lay an unopened letter from David's mother, one that had arrived months ago but that Joyce hadn't found the courage to read. Inside that envelope lay the first clue to a family history that would eventually explain everything, if only the right pieces could come together at the right time. As the night deepened, a notification popped up on Joyce's laptop, still open to the Ancestry website. "New DNA connections found in your family tree." The screen below illuminated the sleeping faces of her daughters, each unique and perfect, while somewhere in the digital ether, the truth about their heritage was slowly coming to light, one digital record at a time. The autumn wind scattered leaves across the elementary school playground as 10-year-old Nancy stood alone by the fence, watching her sisters at different corners of the yard. Over the years, despite Joyce's best efforts to keep them together, the girls had begun to drift apart at school. Cynthia and Anna sat with the popular girls, their fair hair catching the sunlight, while Zara had found her place with the artistic crowd, always carrying a sketchbook. Nancy, quiet and observant, preferred the company of books. That morning, their fifth-grade teacher had assigned a family tree project, unknowingly opening old wounds and raising new questions. "Draw your family tree going back 3 generations," Mrs. Carter had said cheerfully, unaware of the complexity this simple assignment would create for the Gordon girls. During lunch break, Nancy overheard 2 teachers whispering near the cafeteria door, "Those Gordon girls are such a strange case. I heard their father left because..." The conversation stopped abruptly when they noticed her. Nancy pretended not to hear, but her sandwich turned to ash in her mouth. That afternoon, as Joyce picked up the girls from school, she noticed their unusual quietness. "Mom," Cynthia finally spoke up from the back seat, "for the family tree project, can we just not include Dad?" The question hung heavy in the air. Before Joyce could respond, Zara added, "Jessica Smith said her mom told her we can't really be sisters. She said it's biologically impossible." Joyce gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles turning white. At home, she found herself staring at the open letter from Margaret Gordon, still tucked away in her drawer. For 10 years, she'd avoided any connection to David's family, protecting her girls from further rejection, but now, watching her daughters struggle with their identity, she wondered if she'd made the right choice. Later that night, after checking that the girls were asleep, Joyce finally opened her laptop to read the email from the Ancestry website. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the information. There, in black and white, was a photograph from 1932 showing David's great-grandmother, a striking woman with dark skin, standing proudly beside her fair-skinned husband. Below it was a message from Margaret Gordon, "Joyce, it's time you knew the truth about our family." The next day at school, things took an unexpected turn during the family tree presentations. Nancy stood up confidently, holding a large poster board. "My family tree might look different from yours," she began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "I have 3 sisters who don't look like me, and some people think that means we can't be family, but today I want to tell you about what family really means." Before she could continue, the classroom door opened. A woman with silver hair and elegant posture stepped in, Margaret Gordon, the grandmother the girls had never met. The classroom fell silent. Joyce, who had taken the morning off to support Nancy's presentation, felt her heart stop. "I apologize for the interruption," Margaret said softly, "but I believe I have something that belongs in this family tree." She held an old leather-bound album in her trembling hands. The principal, who had accompanied her, nodded encouragingly. Meanwhile, across town, David sat in his office, staring at a similar email from the Ancestry website. His secretary had just brought in an urgent letter from his mother, marked with the words, "The truth about your daughters, open immediately." His hand shook as he reached for the envelope, memories of that day in the hospital flooding back, along with the realization that he might have made the biggest mistake of his life. Back in the classroom, Margaret opened the album, revealing a family history that would change everything. But before she could speak, the fire alarm rang shrilly through the building. As students filed out of the classroom, Nancy caught a glimpse of a photograph that made her gasp, a family portrait from the 1960s showing children who looked remarkably like her and her sisters. The album remained on the teacher's desk as they evacuated, its pages holding answers that would have to wait just a little longer. Outside, as the students gathered on the playground, Joyce noticed something else. For the first time in years, all 4 of her daughters stood together, united by the mystery that was about to unfold. In Joyce's purse, her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "I should have told you the truth 10 years ago, David." The pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together, but would the truth heal their family or create an even deeper divide? As the autumn wind picked up, scattering more leaves across the playground, Joyce realized that their family's story was about to change forever, for better or worse. After the fire alarm, which turned out to be a false alarm triggered by a faulty sensor, the students and teachers filed back into the building. The Gordon girls found themselves in the principal's office, alongside their mother, Grandmother Margaret, and Mrs. Carter. The family album lay open on the desk between them, its pages yellowed with age but its secrets still vibrant. "I should have come forward years ago," Margaret began, her voice thick with emotion, "but our family, we've kept this history buried for so long." She turned to a photograph from 1945 that showed a family gathering. In it, children with varying skin tones stood together, their smiles bright and genuine. "This is your great-great-grandmother, Regina," Margaret explained, pointing to a dignified woman with dark skin. "She married James Gordon in 1932, when such marriages were still illegal in many states. They had 4 children, 2 who looked like her and 2 who looked like him." Her finger traced the faces in the photograph. "This pattern, this beautiful diversity, has appeared in our family for generations." Joyce sat stunned, her hand covering her mouth. The girls leaned forward, fascinated by the faces that looked so much like their own. "In our family," Margaret continued, "we call it the Gordon mystery. Some children inherit more traits from Regina, others from James, but all are Gordon children, all a family." "But why didn't Dad know about this?" Cynthia asked, her voice small but steady. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "Because of me," she admitted. "When I married your grandfather, he was ashamed of his mixed-race heritage. It was a different time with different prejudices. We moved away from the family, changed our stories, hid the photographs. Your father grew up not knowing his true heritage. I thought I was protecting him, but I was only perpetuating a cycle of shame and denial." As she spoke, Joyce's phone buzzed again with another message from David. "Mom just told me everything. I was wrong, so terribly wrong. Can we talk?" Nancy picked up one of the photos that had slipped from the album, a wedding picture of Regina and James. "They look happy," she observed. "Even though they were different, they were happy." Margaret confirmed, "They faced terrible prejudice, but their love was stronger. Regina used to say that love doesn't see color, it sees hearts." She pulled out another photograph, this one from the 1970s. "Look at your father here, age 5, with his cousins, some fair, some dark, all family." The principal, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "Mrs. Gordon, would you be willing to share this history with our students? I think it could be a valuable lesson about family diversity and acceptance." Before Margaret could answer, the office door opened. David Gordon stood there, looking older and more worn than when he'd left 10 years ago. The room fell silent. The girls instinctively moved closer to their mother, while Joyce felt her heart race. "I got on the first flight when Mom told me," he said, his voice breaking. "I've spent 10 years being wrong, being afraid of a truth I didn't understand. I let my ignorance and prejudice tear apart my family." He looked at his daughters, seeing them truly for the first time. "Can you ever forgive me?" Zara, usually the quiet one, stepped forward. "You missed my first lost tooth," she said, her voice trembling. "You missed Cynthia's dance recital, and Nancy's writing award, and Anna's soccer championships." Each word landed like a stone. "I know," David whispered. "I can't get those years back, but if you let me, I want to learn about our real family history. I want to understand where we come from and maybe find a way to be part of where you're going." Joyce watched her daughters' faces, seeing the complex emotions play across them. The truth about their heritage answered so many questions, but it also opened new wounds. The pain of abandonment couldn't be erased by a family album, no matter how revealing its contents. As the afternoon sun slanted through the office windows, casting long shadows across the old photographs, Margaret pulled out one final picture. It showed Regina and James in their later years, surrounded by their children and grandchildren, a beautiful tapestry of different skin tones and features, all bound by love and blood. "This is your legacy," she told her great-granddaughters, "not shame, not secrets, but strength, the strength to be different and proud, to love across boundaries, to stand together as family." Outside the principal's office, the halls had grown quiet as the school day ended, but inside, time seemed to stand still as generations of truth finally came to light. The Gordon girls stood at a crossroads, understanding their past at last but uncertain about their future. How would this revelation change their lives? Could they forgive their father? And what other secrets might still be hidden in the branches of their family tree? Joyce looked at her daughters, then at David, and finally at the family album that had changed everything. The story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But for the first time in 10 years, she felt the weight of secrets lifting, replaced by the possibility of healing, understanding, and perhaps even forgiveness. The week following the revelations in the principal's office felt like walking through a dream. The Gordon household buzzed with a strange mix of tension and possibility, each family member processing the truth in their own way, like planets finding new orbits after a cosmic shift. Cynthia, always the most outspoken, threw herself into researching family genealogy. She'd taken over the dining room table with printouts from ancestry websites, cross-referencing dates and names with Margaret's stories. "Did you know great-great-grandma Regina was a teacher?" she announced one morning over breakfast. She taught at a time when most women, especially women of color, couldn't even get an education. Anna, on the other hand, struggled with anger. "If Dad knew this all along, would it have changed anything?" she asked Joyce late one night, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. "Would he have stayed?" Joyce held her daughter close, wishing she had an answer that could heal 10 years of hurt. Nancy had become the family historian, carrying Margaret's album everywhere like a precious treasure. She'd carefully scan each photograph, noting the features that appeared across generations, the same high cheekbones, the distinctive Gordon nose, the varied skin tones that told their family's unique story. Zara, the artistic one, processed her feelings through drawing. Her sketchbook filled with portraits of relatives from the old photographs, each face captured with careful attention to detail. She'd started a series called Gordon Faces Through Time, drawing connections between past and present family members. David had rented an apartment nearby, respecting the family's need for space while making himself available. He'd sent each daughter a letter, different for each girl, acknowledging his mistakes and expressing his hopes for the future. The letters sat unopened on their bedside tables, waiting for the right moment. One Saturday morning, Joyce found Nancy sitting on the back porch, studying a particular photograph from the 1960s. "Mom," she said without looking up, "I think I understand now why some of us look different. It's like a pattern in our DNA, isn't it? Like a special family signature." Joyce sat beside her daughter, touched by her insight. "That's a beautiful way to look at it," she replied. "Your grandmother Margaret explained that it's a genetic pattern that shows up every few generations in the Gordon line, but you know what's most special about it? What it proves that family is about so much more than how we look. It's about the stories we share, the love we give, and the strength we find in each other." That afternoon, the doorbell rang. Margaret stood there with several boxes of family memorabilia, old letters, diaries, and more photographs. "I found these in the attic," she explained. "I think it's time they came home." As she set the boxes down, she pulled out a worn leather journal. This was Regina's diary. She wrote about her hopes for future generations, that they would be proud of their heritage and never hide who they are. The girls gathered around as Margaret read from the diary, "My dearest grandchildren and their children and all who come after, never let anyone tell you that love has a color. Your blood carries the story of courage, of crossing boundaries, of fighting for what's right. Some of you may look like me, others like your grandfather, but all of you carry our dreams for a better world. Later that evening, as Joyce prepared dinner, she overheard her daughters in the living room, each one engaged with different pieces of their family history. Cynthia was creating a detailed family tree on her laptop. Anna was reading Regina's diary, occasionally wiping tears from her eyes. Nancy was organizing photographs chronologically, while Zara sketched Regina's portrait from a wedding photo. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was David, holding a small box. "I found these in my mother's attic," he said hesitantly. "They're videos from when the girls were babies, from those first few days." His voice trailed off, heavy with regret. Joyce stood in the doorway, conflicted. The girls had appeared in the hallway, drawn by their father's voice. For a moment, no one moved. Then Zara stepped forward, took the box from David's hands, and said quietly, "Would you like to watch them with us?" The simple question hung in the air like a bridge being built over troubled waters. Joyce looked at her daughters' faces, Cynthia's cautious hope, Anna's guarded expression, Nancy's curiosity, and Zara's gentle determination. She realized that healing wouldn't come all at once, but in small moments like these. "Come in," Joyce said finally. "We can order pizza and make an evening of it." As they gathered around the TV, watching footage of 4 tiny babies in their hospital bassinets, the past and present seemed to merge. In the videos, David could be seen holding each daughter with equal love before doubt and prejudice had poisoned his heart. The girls watched transfixed, seeing a version of their father they had never known. Unknown to the family, in Margaret's car outside sat another box of documents, papers that would reveal even more about the Gordon family history. Among them was a letter from Regina to her unborn great-grandchildren, written in 1975, predicting that someday their family's story would help heal the wounds of prejudice. But that revelation would have to wait for another day. As inside the house, a family took its first tentative steps toward reconciliation. The following weekend, Margaret arrived with the final box from her car. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed a sealed envelope on the kitchen table. "This is something special," she explained. "Regina wrote this letter in 1975, specifically requesting it be opened when it was most needed. I think that time is now." The family gathered around the table: Joyce, the 4 girls, David, who had been invited for Saturday breakfast, and Margaret. The envelope seal had yellowed with age, but Regina's elegant handwriting remained clear: "To my future family, open when the pattern returns." Cynthia, who had been researching family genetics, gasped softly. The pattern, she knew it would happen again, didn't she? Margaret nodded. As Joyce carefully opened the envelope and began to read, "My dearest future family, if you're reading this letter, it means the Gordon family pattern has appeared again, children in the same family showing the beautiful diversity of their heritage. I write this in 1975 as I watch my own grandchildren grow, some fair as morning, others dark as dusk, all precious beyond measure. Our family carries a special gift, the ability to show the world that love transcends the boundaries humans create. When James and I married in 1932, we faced hatred and danger. Many called our love impossible, illegal, wrong, but we knew better. We knew that love sees with the heart, not with the eyes. To the parents who may be struggling with this gift, do not fear what others may say. Your children are not a mistake or an anomaly, they are the physical manifestation of generations of love that refuse to be bound by prejudice. They carry in their very beings the proof that humanity is one family, beautiful in its diversity. To the children who may look different from their siblings, you are not less or more, you are exactly who you were meant to be. Your differences are your strength. In you, I see the future I dreamed of, where people understand that family is about love, not appearance. I have a prediction, one that comes from years of watching our family grow. Someday, our story will help others understand that what seems impossible is often simply unexplored. The Gordon family pattern isn't a quirk of genetics, it's a testament to the power of love to bridge any divide. Keep these truths close to your hearts. 1. Family is not about matching appearances but about matching souls. 2. Your differences are not accidents, they are bridges to understanding. 3. The love that created you is stronger than any prejudice that may confront you. Look for me in the old photographs, in the curve of a smile, in the determination of a stance. I am there, as are all your ancestors, watching over you with pride and love, with eternal hope for the future. Regina Gordon, December 25, 1975. As Joyce finished reading, the room fell silent. Zara was the first to move, reaching for her sketchbook to capture the moment. Nancy wiped tears from her eyes, while Anna gripped Cynthia's hand tightly. David cleared his throat. "I wish I had known this 10 years ago," he said quietly. "I let fear and ignorance blind me to the beauty of our family's heritage." "But you know now," Cynthia said, her voice firm but gentle, "and knowing means you can choose to do better." Margaret pulled another item from the box, a small leather-bound book with a family tree meticulously drawn inside. "Regina kept updating this until her death in 1982, she explained. She added every new baby, noting their features, their personalities, their connections to the past. She called it the Gordon Tapestry. As they flipped through the pages, they found something remarkable. Regina had left blank pages at the end, labeled for the future Gordons. On one page, she had written a note to the quadruplets who will come. "Yes, I saw you in my dreams. Your different appearances will start a healing that our family desperately needs. You will bridge the past and future." Joyce felt a chill run down her spine. "How could she have known?" she whispered. "Regina always said she had a special sense about family," Margaret explained. "She believed that love leaves echoes through time, guiding future generations." Nancy suddenly stood up and walked to the living room, returning with the family photo album they'd been studying. She opened it to a specific page and laid it beside Regina's book. There, in a photograph from 1940, were 4 Gordon cousins, 2 with fair skin, 2 with dark skin, all wearing identical expressions of joy. "It's like looking in a mirror," Anna breathed. The morning light streamed through the kitchen windows, casting a warm glow over the family gathered around their history. Outside, neighbors walked their dogs and children played, unaware that inside this ordinary house, an extraordinary healing was taking place. David reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn photograph. "I found this in my wallet yesterday," he said. "It's from the day you were born." The photo showed all 4 babies perfectly arranged like flowers in a garden. "I carried this all these years, even when I was too afraid to face the truth," he showed Joyce. Joyce looked at her daughters' faces, each unique, each perfect, each carrying pieces of a story that had begun generations ago. The morning had started with a letter from the past, but it was opening doors to their future. What other secrets did their family history hold? What other bridges would they build? The answers lay waiting in the boxes of memories, in the echoes of Regina's wisdom, and in the hearts of 4 sisters who were living proof of their great-great-grandmother's dreams. The Gordon family's story began to spread through their community like ripples in a pond. It started with Nancy's family tree presentation at school, which had evolved into something much more significant. The principal, Mrs. Anderson, had asked if the family would be willing to share their story at a special school assembly about diversity and family heritage. "Are we ready for that?" Joyce asked during a family dinner, looking at each of her daughters in turn. "This would mean putting our private story out there for everyone to see." "I think great-great-grandma Regina would want us to," Nancy said quietly, holding the leather-bound family tree book. "She wrote that our story could help others understand." The decision wasn't easy. Each family member had different concerns. Cynthia worried about the attention it would bring. Anna feared people wouldn't believe them. Zara was nervous about speaking in public. But it was David who surprised everyone with his perspective. "I need to be part of this," he said. "People should hear how ignorance and prejudice almost destroyed our family. Maybe it will help other parents avoid my mistakes." The assembly was scheduled for the following month, giving the family time to prepare. They decided to approach it as a joint presentation, with each person sharing their part of the story. Margaret offered to bring more family artifacts, including Regina's teaching certificate from 1935, a remarkable achievement for a woman of color at that time. As they prepared, something unexpected began to happen. Word spread about the upcoming assembly, and other families started coming forward with their own stories. Mrs. Rodriguez, their longtime neighbor, shared how her own family had a similar history of mixed heritage that had been kept secret for generations. Tommy Smith's mother, who had once questioned the girls' sisterhood, came to Joyce with tears in her eyes and an apology. The girls found their relationships at school shifting too. Jessica, who had once teased them about being different, asked Nancy to help her research her own family history. "My mom says every family has stories they don't know about," she explained. "I want to find mine." One evening, as Joyce helped Zara prepare her part of the presentation, an art installation featuring portraits of Gordon family members through the generations, she found her daughter adding something new to the collection. "It's Dad," Zara explained, showing her the portrait. "See how I drew him half in shadow, half in light? That's how it felt when he left. But now." She pointed to another portrait she was working on, showing David surrounded by his daughters, the shadows giving way to color and light. The day before the assembly, an unexpected letter arrived. It was from a genetics professor at the local university who had heard about their story. She explained that the Gordon family pattern was a fascinating example of genetic inheritance, offering to help them understand the science behind their family's unique characteristic. But it was her personal note that touched them most. "Your family demonstrates that genetic diversity within families is more common and natural than many people realize," she wrote. "You're helping to break down misconceptions that have persisted for generations." The morning of the assembly, the school auditorium filled with students, teachers, and parents. The Gordon family stood backstage, each holding a piece of their history, photographs, letters, drawings, and, most importantly, their truth. Joyce watched as Cynthia adjusted Nancy's collar, while Anna helped Zara organize her artwork. David stood nearby, nervous but present, holding Regina's diary. Margaret sat in the front row, the family albums ready to be shared. As the principal introduced them, Joyce felt a sudden connection to Regina, imagining her writing that letter in 1975, seeing through time to this very moment. The family stepped onto the stage together, no longer hiding, no longer afraid of their differences. Nancy began their presentation with Regina's words, "Love sees with the heart, not with the eyes." As she spoke, Zara unveiled her portraits, showing the beautiful tapestry of their family through generations. Cynthia and Anna shared the science and history, while David stepped forward to speak about learning and growth. In the audience, Joyce could see faces lighting up with recognition, understanding, and hope. Some were crying, others nodding, and many were holding hands. Their private family story was becoming a bridge for others to cross, just as Regina had predicted. During the question and answer session, a small girl raised her hand. "Does this mean it's okay if families look different?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Because my adopted brother doesn't look like me, and some kids say he's not my real brother." Zara stepped forward, her usual shyness forgotten. "Come here," she said, gesturing for the girl to join them on stage. "Look at these portraits, look at my sisters, look at our family. Different flowers can grow in the same garden, and they make the garden more beautiful, not less real." The auditorium erupted in applause, but it was the tears in David's eyes that told Joyce they had truly crossed a threshold. Their story wasn't just healing their family anymore, it was helping to heal their community. As they left the stage, Joyce noticed something remarkable. The girls were walking together, their differences no longer a source of pain but a testament to their family's unique journey. David walked beside them, not as the father who left, but as a man learning to see with his heart instead of his eyes. The story wasn't over. There would be more challenges, more growth, more understanding needed, but as Regina had written decades ago, they were building bridges between past and future, showing that family is about love, not appearance, and that every difference can become a gift when viewed through the lens of understanding. The weeks following the school assembly brought unexpected changes to the Gordon family's life. Their story had struck a chord in their community, leading to invitations to speak at other schools and community centers. Local newspapers wanted to write articles about their family history, and social media buzzed with discussions about genetic diversity in families. One Sunday morning, as the family gathered for breakfast, a new tradition that included David when he wasn't traveling for work, Cynthia brought up a concern that had been weighing on her mind. "I heard some kids at school saying we're only sharing our story for attention," she said, pushing her pancakes around her plate. "Someone even said we're making it all up." Nancy reached for her sister's hand. "Remember what great-great-grandma Regina wrote, 'Truth has its own power.' We're not telling our story for attention, we're telling it because it might help other families feel less alone." Joyce watched her daughters interact, noting how their relationships had evolved. The girls, who had once drifted apart at school, now sat together at lunch, their bond strengthened by their shared purpose. Even their different interests had found common ground. Zara's artwork decorated Cynthia's genealogy research, while Nancy's historical narratives inspired Anna's speeches for their presentations. David, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "I received an email yesterday from a father in Michigan," he said. His wife just gave birth to twins who look very different from each other. He was struggling with doubt until he read about our family online. Our story helped him understand and accept his children. The conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Margaret entered, carrying a large box and wearing an expression of excitement and anxiety. "I found these in my attic last night," she said, placing the box